Money!
What Your Bank Doesn't Tell You, a podcast by You Mushroom.
Hello everyone and welcome to our podcast What Your Bank Doesn't Tell You. Today we're going to speak about our favorite topic, and this is Know Your Worth. And it's worth mentioning that when we started the company, one of the first things we asked ourselves is how do we invest our resources? How do we spend our time? How do we invest our physical resources? And last but not least, how do we invest our money resources?
True, and I believe it was one of these very crucial moments when we became aware how many decisions we don't take consciously usually. And given we took this step, it was one incident where we became quite aware what is important to us. And this is something we would like to pass on to you, to motivate you to actually start considering all the decisions you're taking very often subconsciously during the days and even weeks or even years. And very often, at least to me, it happened. Then it was December again, it was New Year's Eve. And I was wondering, how did the time pass? Where was this year? And so many things happened, but so many things didn't happen, or maybe not the way I intended them to happen. And I realized, but even then, not consciously, that I'm taking so many decisions unconsciously, and that somebody else sometimes is even deciding for me. And this is something we had the chance to reflect on and to change.
Yes, and it's very important what you're mentioning. Normally, when we wake up, we live on autopilot, right? Like we wake up, you go switch on the coffee machine. I'm a coffee drinker. For those out who are probably not coffee drinkers, would do a tea, and then the day starts running, and you're like again in this rut, and then you're like, yeah, but I had this dream to do this and this, and I had this dream to be fitter, slimmer, look more beautiful. I don't know, more inspiring, whatever you name it. And then someone down the road potentially comes, yeah, and if I would have a little bit more money, I'd be doing this and this and this. And people normally live in what if, and completely don't realize that it's a question of changing very little things in our everyday life. And the first step starts with awareness. And we would love to, we're doing this and we're talking today exactly about that. Take a step back. We never do that, right? We always have excuses that we're busy, but take a step back and think where you want to be. And look at the three major resources in your life. Look at your physical well-being, look at your mental well-being, and look at your financial well-being. And see, do you have the results which you want to have?
And you're mentioning a very important aspect that we very often think if I had, or if this situation occurred, or all these ifs. But the if is somehow also an excuse. And we don't dare, or we are afraid of so many things, actually, not just dreaming of something, but actually making it happen. And it's the fears, and it's also maybe a lack of know-how how things really work. So we just use the pretext of if this happened, or if this was the case, then I did this or that. And as you said, we believe, is it in respect to a daily situation, or is it in respect to money? At some point, just try to start with tiny steps, define steps which are easy to overcome, to get somehow used to it. And then you eventually will get into the situation to build more or bigger steps until very crazy dreams, and start building up your future, or the resources how you want them to be, and especially as well the financial resources.
Let's take the financial resources situation. When we started the company, and I believe we mentioned it several times in the past podcasts, we actually started talking in our friend circle and in our broader circle, do people invest? We literally went to everyone we knew and asked, do you invest? And the answer was, in 99% of the time, no. And then obviously we were very curious to understand why people don't invest, because we weren't that big of investors either for a period of time towards the end of our banking careers. And the answers were always the same. People would say, I don't have time. I don't understand the financial information. I don't, I kind of don't want to deal with it. It's like, anyway, not going to bring anything. And on it goes.
You're touching a very important point. This is basically people or our friends, they couldn't be bothered. And we realized that with many people, they just can't be bothered when it comes to their finances and their money. And it's extremely surprising to us, because if you ask people, what's important to you in your life, usually people tell you, I would like to be healthy. I want my family to be healthy, because if you don't have the physical or the mental health, then everything changes anyway. But then after the health, usually people mention money. Money is important, because you mentioned it at the very beginning. We start the day getting up, drinking a coffee. So we already need money to buy that coffee. We need money for everything. And with a bit of money, our lives are just much more comfortable. So it's a resource which is extremely important to everybody, usually the second important resource we are having in our lives. And nevertheless, we are happy to somehow just ignore that resource and think that we can't be bothered dealing with it. And this is extremely important to us, that we bring that awareness to you, that you are ignoring something which has a very high priority in your life, and also help you to discover why this is the case.
It is. And have a look at the following. Let's take a parallel to the food industry. Our team loves eating, and we can spend hours talking about what we like to cook and eat. But if you actually eat every day outside, right, and primarily eat fast food, and don't take a conscious decision to prepare food yourself, or eat certain vegetables, fruits, etc., you're actually leaving the industry, in this case, the food industry, the fast food industry, take decision for your health, right? You're giving your health to effectively the big companies out there who are producing the snacks. Same is, by the way, also with the finances. If you don't take a conscious decision how your money is going to be invested and say, I'm putting it into the bank, well, guess what? Subconsciously, you're delegating the power over your resources to the bank, in which your money lies with, to the state, because obviously it's also subject to what kind of inflation it is in the state you're living with, and in what kind of monetary policy, etc. A lot of political factors, long story short, which influence the value of your money and the purchasing power of your money. And last but not least, you're actually completely letting go a chance of really shaping through this resource the way you choose what to work for, exactly the same way money is a production resource. You're actually completely forgoing the chance of shaping or supporting those industries, those causes which you believe into. So not investing means basically that you're leaving the responsibility for your financial well-being and for the future to someone else.
I like a lot how you displayed it or explained it, that we delegate to somebody who is not a reliable delegate. Because usually the governments, and even if you consider our pension schemes, you don't know how they are turning out, and you don't know whether you can rely on them. So we delegate, but we don't know whether it's a reliable counterpart on the other side. And what we also experienced, if we take on this responsibility ourselves, then it's extremely important to know why we are taking on this responsibility. And that's the reason why we are starting this movement, Know Your Worth, in order to reflect what is really important to me. So we know already money is important to all of us. So we need to know or become aware how we want to invest our money, what is important to us. So maybe, you mentioned before that we all love eating, and it's true. We all in the team, we love to have a good lunch together. We all eat quite healthy. So for us, this is a very important aspect in our lives. So it's very close to me as well then to invest my money, at least part of it, into companies, into industries which support my healthy lifestyle. And if I give the money to this industry, then of course, hopefully it brings me money back and I can have a better life or more money, etc. But also it gives to me the opportunity to support a world which I would like to live in the end.
It is the case, absolutely. And we were wondering, why do we, and everyone is like that, like, right, we needed to overcome this element also in us. Why don't we touch money? Why don't we? In my case, I was actually very much afraid to do a mistake. And it's very funny, when I was young as I was young and studying at the university, I would easily do any type of very funny trades on options later on in the early careers. I'll take quite a lot of risks.
But it was also important, right, to get the training, no?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. But funny, it's with money, there's so, I have the feeling that money kind of triggers all the possible very intense feelings around, like fear, like guilt, like being scared that you can do a mistake and then end up poor and all those type of things, right?
True. But I mean, in the end, it's a very philosophical topic as well, no?
It is, yeah.
I mean, and you can argue and reflect on it from very different angles and perspectives. But maybe if you can summarize some very helpful steps, what helped us as well to change it in our daily lives is really to take a step back, to become aware or to be honest to ourselves how important money is in the end. And then secondly, to become aware what is important, or what are important aspects in my life? What do I want to support? What do I see? What do I want to see more in my life? Of what do I have enough and I don't want to have it anymore in my life? And then to start reallocate resources accordingly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? Don't be scared if you do mistakes. And the best way, what helped me at least when I was starting to really seriously invest the money for myself, for my family, etc., was I started with little amount and started really testing how does it feel. And even professionals need to train their instincts because macroeconomical conditions are changing. It's not the same ones which we were encountering when we started in the banking industry. And you permanently need to rediscover that, but it's like training a muscle. It's effectively the same way I train for my physical fitness 3 times a week. Exactly the same you train for investing.
Yeah, you actually told me today that you can do the push-ups now.
So proud.
But it's a big, it sounds like a tiny step, but it was your decision to be stronger, also physically stronger. Yeah. And it's a tiny step, but it adds up.
It adds up, yeah. It has a compounding effect.
Yeah. So we have 3. Also start with tiny steps and build on it.
Yes, that's probably the biggest 3 messages we want to give you today. And don't be afraid, because fear actually has never created anything good. Unless, obviously, if you are in the jungle and encountering a lion, we are meaning more the fears that are in our heads and not the really, really realistic ones. So be brave, start little, and trust that you're going to be the best investor the earth has ever seen.
Yes, and you will definitely hear more about our movement, Know Your Worth. We are keeping you up to date. You will also see on different social media channels more contributions. If you have any questions or inputs, we are always happy to get your feedback on hello@youmushroom.com. And we are very much looking forward to see you in the next podcast. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Money!
What Your Bank Doesn't Tell You, a podcast by You Mushroom.